Think back to your life a year ago. Remember how overwhelmed you felt? How you kept replaying the same mistakes, feeling stuck, wondering if things would ever change? And yet, here you are, watching this. That is not random. That's how new chapters begin, with tiny but powerful realizations that you can't keep living on repeat. This video is going to walk you through the exact moments when the universe whispers, "It's time." The question is, are you ready to step into it? Why do you think this video found you right now, in this very moment? Out of all the things you could be watching, out of all the noise in your world, this is what appeared on your screen. You could brush it off and say it's just the algorithm, just another video mixed in with everything else. But deep down, part of you knows better. Timing is never random. Life has a way of placing messages in front of us when we're finally ready to hear them, even if we've ignored the whispers before. It's easy to assume that new beginnings arrive quietly, almost like slipping into a new outfit. But if you've ever stood at the edge of real change, you know it doesn't feel simple at all. It feels like unease. It feels like you're being stretched between who you've been and who you could be. And when that feeling hits, it's normal to question everything. You wonder, am I just imagining signs? Is this really a shift? Or am I fooling myself again? That push and pull is the call. It doesn't feel polished or graceful. It feels like friction. Think about the last time you told yourself you'd change and then didn't. Maybe it was something small, like promising yourself to get more rest and then staying up too late scrolling on your phone. The next day you dragged yourself out of bed, frustrated, vowing that tonight would be different, only to repeat it all over again. That restless cycle is heavy, and yet it's familiar. And sometimes you only start to notice how exhausting it is when your spirit is craving something new. What's interesting is that studies in human behavior often show that just before people experience real change, they report higher levels of discomfort. It's like the brain is rattling in protest before it loosens its grip on old habits. That messy, uncomfortable middle isn't a failure sign. It's actually a signal that something deeper is shifting. And that's why you're noticing this tug inside right now, because the ground you've stood on is starting to crack open. Picture someone who avoids that feeling. They see the cracks, they hear the nudges, but they push them down. They convince themselves it's not the right time, or that they're overthinking it. Months pass, maybe even years, and somehow they find themselves facing the very same challenges. Again, the same toxic patterns, the same unhappiness, the same lessons repeating in slightly different forms. It's almost as if life patiently circles them back until they're willing to face what they once avoided. You can probably see moments like that in your own timeline, when you ignored the discomfort and found that the same problem came back around, only louder. And this is where the weight of the choice really comes in. What happens if you keep ignoring the call? What if life keeps looping you through the same classrooms, giving you similar lessons over and over? It's unsettling, isn't it, to consider the possibility of being trapped in those cycles forever? But here's the truth. The universe functions a lot like the best teacher you've ever had. It doesn't give up on you, even when you try to sleep through the class. It repeats the lesson with patience, testing you gently, then firmly, until you finally raise your head and decide to learn. So if you're noticing yourself feel different right now, that's not an accident. That's not just a passing mood. That's one of the very first signs. Your old life doesn't quite fit anymore. It's like spotting the first crack in the surface of a wall you've lived behind. You don't even have to know what's fully on the other side yet for that crack to matter, because just being aware of it means you're no longer asleep to your own growth, and that awareness alone is proof of change beginning. Now the real question becomes, what happens next? Once you recognize that the call is real, you'll start noticing how the universe confirms it, tiny alignments that show up like guides on your path. And that's where things start to get even more interesting. How the universe confirms your shift. Have you noticed how sometimes the same phrase, idea, or even song keeps showing up around you, like you overhear it in a conversation, then it pops up in a podcast, and later you see it written on a billboard. At first it feels random, but after the third or fourth time, you can't help but ask yourself, why does this message keep following me? That is the quiet language of synchronicity. It's how life taps you on the shoulder and says, pay attention, because something important is shifting. When people step into a new chapter, these subtle signals often show up more frequently. They may not be loud or dramatic, but they stand out enough to catch your awareness. These are confirmations that you're not wandering aimlessly, even if it feels that way some days. Instead, it's more like being guided through a trail marked with signs. The universe doesn't hand you a map with bold instructions. It leaves little markers to point the way forward, and you're the one who has to notice them. The tricky part is that most of us second-guess these experiences. We brush them off as coincidence, or we tell ourselves we're reading too much into things, and it's understandable because our minds are trained to rationalize. But how many times have you seen 3 or 4 messages all nudging you toward the same area of your life, like healthier habits, better relationships, or a new opportunity, and felt that spark inside? That spark is awareness waking up. Even if you can explain it away logically, the feeling it leaves behind is different. That feeling is the clue that it's more than chance. Imagine this. One day you open a book and see a sentence about starting fresh. Later that night, a friend randomly brings up their own story about walking away from something that no longer served them. The following morning you scroll through your feed, and right there in an ad is that same idea. Time for a new beginning. 3 pieces, all from unrelated places, but they weave together like one message. That's how breadcrumbs work. Step by step, they lead you toward something larger than you imagined on your own. Researchers often say the brain is wired to notice patterns when you're already paying close attention. Spiritually, people interpret this heightened awareness as alignment, meaning your inner world and the outer world are finally syncing up. The science and the spiritual view may use different language, but both point to the same thing. When you're ready for change, your perception shifts, and the world around you suddenly reflects it. What was once invisible becomes obvious. There's a story of someone who lost a parent unexpectedly. In those months of grief, they felt almost blinded by pain. Yet, slowly, little signs began appearing around them. They would run into books about healing, hear stories of resilience in random conversations, even stumble on songs about letting go. Individually, these moments seemed small, but together, they became a thread pulling them forward, reminding them, even in loss, there was still a path of growth waiting for them. Those signs didn't erase the pain, but they made it clear that a new chapter was forming out of the old one. It makes you wonder, what if the signs are not only there to confirm that things are changing, but also to test whether you'll be bold enough to answer them? What if every repeated message is like an invitation, and your choice to acknowledge it is the real decision point? It's not just about noticing the pattern, it's about whether you step toward it or retreat into the familiar. That's how powerful these little synchronicities can be. So here's where it comes together. The very fact that you're hearing this right now is itself one of those confirmations. Out of all the noise online, you found this message, and it resonates with something inside you. That connection isn't trivial. It means you're already aligned with the shift happening in your life. It has begun, whether you fully see it or not. But here's the important part. For the new to fully take root, the old can't keep taking up space. The universe can send signs every day, but if your hands are full, holding on to what no longer fits, those signs have nowhere to land. That's why the next step isn't just about noticing the confirmations. You have to decide what you're willing to release so you can walk into the life waiting for you. You know what most people don't realize? The hardest part of stepping into a new life isn't planting something fresh. It's having the courage to lay down what no longer belongs. Everyone loves the idea of reinvention, of turning the page into a brighter chapter. But very few talk about the space that must be cleared before the story can be written. A garden doesn't bloom if it's choked with weeds, and your own life works the same way. You can't hold on to what drains you and expect something new to grow in its place. Think about it. Every transformation requires room to unfold. If your mind, your energy, and even your daily routines are still wrapped in old cycles, where does the new chapter fit? It's like carrying too many bags through a narrow doorway. You just won't make it through unless you're willing to put something down. And isn't that the very thing we resist most? Not the stepping forward, but the letting go? Letting go feels heavy because it tugs against everything familiar. For example, you know that friendship you've kept out of habit, even though every conversation leaves you feeling drained. There's that comfortable rhythm of procrastination, staying in bed an extra hour, or putting off the work you know needs to get done. Or maybe it's bigger, a life path you once believed was meant for you, like a career you pursued for years until you realized it doesn't fit anymore. That's the inner fight. It's not that we want to keep living in patterns that shrink us, it's that the fear of leaving them feels sharper than the vision of what's next. Picture someone standing in their office cubicle for the last time. They're not leaving a job lightly. It's been years of paychecks, routines, a sense of security. But what's left at the end of every shift? Tight shoulders, restless nights, and the haunting feeling that their soul is trading peace for a paycheck. Walking out is terrifying, but also a release. Fear and freedom intertwined. That person is stepping into uncertainty, yes, but they're also allowing space where life can finally bring in something aligned. And if that sounds extreme, look at nature for perspective. A snake sheds its skin, not because it wants to, but because it has no choice if it wants to grow. The shedding is uncomfortable, sometimes raw, but the alternative is suffocating inside what no longer fits. Humans might not literally shed skin, but every major change asks us to do the same thing, to release the version of ourselves we've outgrown, even when we feel exposed without it. Psychologists have studied this resistance and call it loss aversion. Put simply, most people fear giving something up much more than they enjoy gaining something new. That's why leaving an unhealthy relationship can feel harder, even though logically we know it's better for us. Our minds cling to what's familiar, even the pain, because it feels known. It's like choosing the discomfort of the cage because at least you already understand its walls. But ask yourself, what happens if you cling too tightly? Do you end up walking the same loop again and again, watching opportunities pass while replaying the same lessons? If you never open your hand, can anything ever be placed in it? That's the sobering question the universe seems to nudge us with. Are you willing to free the space for what's meant to arrive? Now, think of someone who has just ended a draining relationship. The silence that follows hurts at first. The evenings feel empty, the routine strange without the usual noise and weight. Yet, within that quiet comes something surprising. They notice a calm in their chest they haven't felt in years. Conversations feel lighter. Mornings start without the old tension. Even the way they breathe feels less forced. That peace is the first proof they're not just ending something, they're beginning something real. And maybe that's how you can see your own process right now. Every ache of release, every bit of fear, every tear shed is not evidence of failure. It's a sign of birth. You're not walking away aimlessly. You're opening the door to the life calling you. That makes the choice sacred. Because right now, in this very moment, you are the one chosen to step through it. You didn't land on this video by accident. The fact that you're here, listening now, is living proof that your shift has already begun. Life doesn't place these messages in front of just anyone. It saves them for the ones ready to move forward. That's you. So claim it. If you feel this change stirring, say it out loud, or write it down in the comments. Share the signs you've noticed or the topics you want us to explore next. Remember, you are chosen for this moment. Your new chapter isn't waiting. It's already unfolding right now.